Greetings, friends, and welcome to another Empowered Aging Managers live stream. We appreciate you joining us today to talk about one of the topics we think you'll find interesting. And we do these about once a month and try to come up with some ideas about things we think you'd like to talk with us about. Feel free to engage with us at any point through our social media channels. We're on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and all of the rest of them. Also, you could sign up for our newsletter, but we're going to start today. Before I start talking about the topic, I'm going to give you just a bit of an overview about our agency. We have been around for decades and started as primarily an ombudsman agency, which means we protect the rights and the safety and the quality of life of older adults and adults with disabilities who are living in long-term care facilities in Alameda, in Contra Costa, and in Solano counties. In Solano, we actually also have an elder justice program, which protects those same rights and also helps people that have been the victims of crime that are living in that county and living independently. And we have a friendly visiting and telephone reassurance. We have a healthcare career pathway program that was launched in Contra Costa, but we're about to launch in 2 additional counties and eventually statewide. And that is basically to help people that have faced addressable barriers to long-term employment and careers into achieving a CNA, Certified Nursing Associate, certification and a career path in that direction. And we've got some really great things happening in that area. Stay tuned on that because a lot is happening, a lot of motion there. And we are hoping to bring that program out to additional 2 counties this year and moving further on past that. We also have an MSW internship program through which we have interns come in and take on the role of ombudsman and do some of the same work, go through the same training, have the same mandates that they're following, and really support our efforts. And I think it's important to note that as a nonprofit, we are strapped for staff and always struggling with trying to meet the need because there is such a need out there that interns are a big part of how we get through that, how we make sure we're hearing everyone and taking care of the visits that need to happen to those facilities that we manage. And volunteers are another part of that. So what we're talking about today is volunteerism, what it's meant to us in the past, what our need is at the moment, what we're hoping we can have you take part in with us and join with us and share with your friends so that maybe someone's interested in learning more. I have always felt really driven to volunteer myself. And I know in this kind of work that we're all doing here, we're all community driven people anyway, but my very first official volunteer position was as a candy striper, which I know dates me. It was a pretty interesting experience and a lot of memories that I look back on. But I think when we're collectively this kind of group that's together right here, again, every one of us is the kind of person that really gets connected in your community, and we do what we can to make things better around us. And you can't say enough about the volunteers that support us, or frankly, any of the agencies that we partner with, or that we, even work on a one-off with. So today our topic is volunteerism, and we're going to talk a little bit about some inspiring stories. We're going to talk about volunteers that have made a difference for our agency or in our lives, or volunteer work that we've done. And hopefully you'll come along for the journey and the story and enjoy us. And again, share this with your friends. We will start with Charmaine. If you could introduce yourself briefly and then talk a little bit about what volunteerism has meant to you. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Susanna. I'm Charmaine Brent, the Director of Program and Services, and that's where I sit today. However, I have spent the last 3 years as the program manager over the Ombudsman program in Alameda County. And I just want to say that, oftentimes I would think about where I sat in that role, and even where I sit today, the Ombudsman program really built on the foundational work were volunteers. We've grown to where we have paid positions, but it really started with that folks volunteering their times to go out and talk to seniors, engage with seniors in the facilities, and making sure they were okay, and making sure that quality of care and quality of life. But now we have this, larger infrastructure. But in terms of the Ombudsman program, volunteers are very integral. We thrive off, yes, paid staff and our donors, but volunteers really dedicating their time in helping the program to thrive. I mean, we all can't be in all places at all times, but the volunteers really, they really matter. I know that seniors during the pandemic, during the shelter in place, there were volunteers going out to see many of our seniors, but during that time, things were crazy and strange, and we had to be in social bubbles, and there was this whole infection control process that was really scary. And during that time, we did lose a large number of our volunteers. And so now we are just reaching out to individuals and asking you to think about those seniors that are in long-term care facilities that are dealing with, still social isolation, as we begin to retrain ourselves how to kind of migrate back into some level of normalcy and into facilities. People, they still really don't know that that is okay. So this is why this live is so important, that it is okay. We have an amazing ombudsman program. Yes, we are in 3 counties, Solano, Contra Costa, and Alameda County. And as I indicated, I serve there. And we had volunteers that were very supportive to us, whether we were going out and passing out PPE gear. They would go out to the various facilities, which some of them we call 6-bed. Those are the ones that you see, smaller, 6 people or less, in could be in your neighborhood. The larger facilities, skilled nursing, as I indicated, people were in need during that time, and we all could not be in all places at all times. And it was really the volunteers that really helped us do some of the things that we were not able to do, so we could still go out and assess, complaints around abuse, neglect, and exploitation. So to be a ombudsman volunteer, you would be the pinnacle of advocacy. You would also go through a training process. It's 37 hours. You would become a certified ombudsman. So you will be certified by the state of California as an ombudsman, and dedicating some of your time. We're willing to work with you. We look at like a 10-hour a week commitment, but we're willing to work with you and be flexible. Just know that, think about the seniors. They need us and they need you. They need volunteers. So we're hoping that this really speaks to you. And by the end of this live stream, you'll learn and you'll be told how to reach us and contact us. And you'll hear more stories about how valuable the volunteer work is.
Thank you, Charmaine.
Yeah, that's my spiel.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a really good point, because before COVID, I know we were pretty strong in our volunteer workforce, if you will. But when COVID hit, a lot of our volunteers were older adults themselves. And of course, there was this fear of re-entering facilities where there might be infection and there might be infection spread. So, we've come out of that. All of the protocols are in place. Our teams are fully back in facilities and feeling really good and strong about that. So we're really urging people to think about joining us again, getting back into this work and into supporting the needs of older adults and adults with disabilities. So thank you, Charmaine. Let's hear from Dodie a little bit now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate your attention and support and just getting to have this conversation with us. My name is Dodie Zotai. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the director of the Healthcare Career Pathway here at Empowered Aging. And my kind of take on volunteerism is a little bit different because I work with our students and graduates who become those certified nursing assistants that work in long-term care facilities, assisted living, home health. And then, some go on also to other careers within nursing or other allied health. And so in our Healthcare Career Pathway program, so our HCP program, we actually have volunteers also that we need and utilize, not as many, definitely as our ombudsman program, but those individuals help us to actually feed our students. One of the things that we know about the Healthcare Career Pathway program and the success of the program is that we provide these wraparound supports. So we have students that come in, most of our students have what we call addressable barriers, meaning things that just have gotten in their way for them to be successful either in the workforce or in education. maybe they haven't been given the same opportunities or supports that they need to be successful. And so those wraparound supports, the main ones are food supports and transportation supports. So our food supports, we get food donated from the food bank, and in Contra Costa, it's the Contra Costa and Solano Food Bank. And our volunteers go and pick up that food. We also have an organization that we partner with called Loaves and Fishes. And that organization actually makes the meals for our students in Contra Costa and delivers them. And they're run by a lot of volunteers as well. Another piece that I was going to talk about is I have a long personal history of volunteering. I started also a little bit like Susanna, but I volunteered at the Children's Hospital in Buffalo when I was in high school and was on different, business teams and things like that in high school. And so really started that. And I think that came from my mom, who was a CNA also, part of how I got on this path with the healthcare career pathway. And so when I think just one of the things that I want to talk about is just the impact, right? Volunteers really make organizations, especially nonprofits, be able to do that important, vital, and a lot of times life-saving work that we do. And so if you have a little bit of time and you want to feel really good, I know for me, something that got me through the pandemic was volunteering in another nonprofit organization. And so even now, like being able to take that time to volunteer in whatever way it is. And if you can't do that just yet, maybe sharing our message today with other folks who might have the time, donating, right? That also helps us do the work that we do and kind of spread the work. Like we're really able to stretch that dollar with all of the work that we do. We're a small but mighty staff. And so we just thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Dodie. Kiev, how about your experiences with volunteers?
Well, my experience but first I would like to say thank you and good morning. When I think of volunteerism and volunteering in general, I initially think of community. I know that there's a saying that we probably all heard is that it takes a village, and primarily that resonated more so with children, but it also takes a village to keep the seniors that we serve uplifted, encouraged, happy, and thriving. So every time I hear the word volunteer, I think of community. Something that stands out to me is my first time ever volunteering was roughly 16 or 17 years ago. And I volunteered at a women's shelter. And typically when you think of a women's shelter, you think of, the TAY population between 18 and 24. But surprisingly enough, there were elderly women who were in this shelter. And that's something that you never would think of when you envision that. And so I remember volunteering on Saturdays and Sundays, which was a big stretch for me to do so, but I did it. And while being there, losing my grandmother at an early age, at the age of 10, it really propelled me to kind of give it my all. So I would dedicate time and really get to know these individuals, the seniors specifically, and them sharing stories, them giving history, wisdom, encouragement, and also them sharing some of their struggles. So the struggles is pretty much what stood out. So I say all of this to say, it's important. And I know a lot of us may go in different career paths. Those who may be interested in volunteering, you may gear towards children or political aspects of things. But I always say, think about your grandmother. Think about that elderly person who lived across the street from you. Think about someone that you've seen in a grocery store who needed assistance with putting something in her car. Think about that person. So those are the individuals that you'll be serving. And I think with doing so, you'll be able to gain a sense of knowledge, a sense of fulfillment, and something that will really propel you for whatever you want to do in life. You'll feel fulfilled just by giving a helping hand. So we welcome all volunteers. We need you guys. We love you guys. And we welcome you.
Yeah, that was perfectly stated. Thank you. This is such a great conversation. Dodie and Charmaine, thank you for your thoughts as well. I'm loving this and I'm feeling inspired myself. Carlene, what can you share?
Hi, I'm Carlina Chatham, and I'm the program manager at Contra Costa County. I just think volunteers in general are essential for the work that we do in serving the aging population. Because this population is growing, we need more volunteers to help advocate for more residents. Just in Contra Costa alone, we serve roughly more than 10,000 residents, and that's changing. residents are being discharged in and out of facilities. So we constantly are serving those residents as well. But in general, ever since the pandemic, residents haven't really had much contact with anyone outside of facilities. So it's kind of us that go in to see them, volunteers who go in and meet with them as well. So building those relationships with the residents, with the staff members are very important. And we also meet residents who don't have family members or friends who are local. So they actually don't get visitors. So we're probably their only visitor visiting with them. And over time, we start to build that rapport with residents, and they start to trust us. So they tell us more about who they are, what their history was like, what they did in the past, what they enjoy doing now, and any concerns that they have about quality of life and quality of care. And with that trust, they want us to take that, try to resolve any concerns that they have with their care, their quality of life. And that's very important. I always enjoy going into these facilities and I hear from the residents and the staff members, you know, like, where did this volunteer go? And I'm like, you know, they're no longer with us. And they're like, oh, like, you know, like I've seen them for 3 years, or, you know, we always talked about baseball. We always watched baseball together. So it's those little things that really were important, and had an impact in their life.
Thank you, Carlene. Christina, you're in ombudsman work too. What can you share?
Hi, I'm Christina Fauna. I'm a Solano County Ombudsman Program Manager. You know, I've been with the program for over 5 years, and since I've been here, we had 2 volunteers. They were actually both sisters, and they did amazing. Our residents absolutely loved them. They have a background of social work, and so they just jumped in and knew what to do. But unfortunately, you know, they had to take the time away and go. They had grandchildren coming, and so which I completely understand. We all have kids here, so you know, you want to spend time with them as much as possible. But it is very important for us to have volunteers. You know, currently here in Solano County, there are just 2 of us, and we do rely on our interns and our volunteers. And because we aren't unable to get to the facilities every day like we would want to. And so just by having the volunteers, there are more, you know, things that they see that we are not able to see. And so we want to make sure that we are advocating for the residents and supporting them in every way that we can. But we do need volunteers. We need you guys, and you know, we do hope that you guys will join our team and become a volunteer, whether that's in Alameda County or Contra Costa County or Solano County. But we do need volunteers, and we do appreciate all the work that you guys do. And you know, please reach out. I think Tia is next, and so she will go and talk a little bit more.
Thanks, Christina, and thank you, Carlene, for sharing some of your thoughts. Since we're moving on to outside of the ombudsman specifically, can one of you share, are there any opportunities that someone could do that aren't necessarily in the facilities, that are maybe remote, or that are helping with data entry, or that are ambassadors, or anything like that? Could do any of you have any suggestions or thoughts about what other kind of work someone might do if they're not able to physically leave their home, for example? And we talked at one point about discharge work. Is that an option, Charmaine?
Well, I do know that currently in Alameda County, for Kiev, we have a discharge coordinator. This is a volunteer. She was once going into facilities, but the discharge coordinator we found was just a phenomenal role and position. So there are things that volunteer and reimagine. So for those who can give their time remotely, because what that discharge coordinator, just to give you a little snippet, anybody that's discharged from a facility, we receive notices. So she was able to monitor trends, because what we don't want is our seniors going to the hospitals and what we call this hospital dumping, left in the hospital, or our seniors being discharged somewhere and the ombudsman program didn't get noticed, or they sent them to a tent, or just homeless situation, where she monitored those trends and also educated the staff on the proper way of use of the form, of the discharge process and the law around that. And she kept Kiev abreast of those trends. So the ombudsman, assigned ombudsman, can go out to those facilities just to reinforcement and follow up. And then we're also looking for folks who can, if you're not able to go out in the field, maybe assisting with triage and phone calls and different things. We just ask you to come to us, and based on your skill set, your training, we may find, a place for you. Like,
Okay.
And I wondered if we were going to lose Charmaine. We had a little bit of sketchy Wi-Fi coverage maybe, so she'll be coming back, but there she is. We lost you there for a minute. And now you're muted.
a lot of our seniors, my apologies, a lot of our seniors have become a little tech savvy. So they're looking for what they would call some youngsters to help them learn even more. More of them want to learn how to FaceTime, or, what is this TikTok thing, just to occupy their time, just those kind of things, bridging those generational gaps. And so just know that they have learned how to FaceTime. They've learned how to use tablets and iPads and different things like that. Sometimes they want folks to come out and help them hook up their Google Home or Alexa, just to have that type of engagement. So just think about this: volunteerism reimagined, especially for our program. We ask you to just come to us.
That's a great phrase. I love that. We should use that. I think that's a really good point, because there are other volunteer positions throughout the agency that can support us too. I mean, if you're into marketing or social media and want to support those efforts for us, if you want to help us to fundraise or maybe plan fundraising events, or be an ambassador and attend resource fairs on our behalf, there's a lot that you can do that can support our efforts. And it was mentioned before, Dodie, thank you very much. Fundraising is one of our top priorities, as it typically is for nonprofits. So we'll include some information about how you can help us financially as well. And we thank you in advance for any of your donations. Let's hear from Tiffany.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Hurd, Administrative Manager, and you would meet me once you decide to volunteer, because I know we've captured all of your interest in volunteering, so I can't wait to meet you all. And so you'd come here to the Pleasant Hill office. We'd mail out a volunteer packet. You bring that packet, a form filled out, and from there I'd take you really close by to get fingerprinted. You pass the fingerprinting, super simple, and we'd sign you up, and we put you out in the field, or however we decide that you partner with us. We welcome you to do that, and can't wait to have you all.
Thank you. Tiffany will make this a very smooth and easy process. Last, I think we want to hear from Tia. She's got a different viewpoint on volunteerism based on her position. Tia, can you share about that, please?
Hi, yes. My name is Tia. I'm the Solano Outreach Coordinator. I actually started here as an MSW intern, which got me really interested in working with older adults. And obviously I'm still here. So what I do is I interview the volunteers for different counties for several positions, for ombudsman, for friendly visitor telephone reassurance, and for the elder justice advocate positions, or is like everybody else said, other positions that we might have that come up, like social media or fundraising or anything like that. The process involves an interview, and then I mail out a packet along with Tiffany. We work in conjunction where we send it out, and it's super simple, just a questionnaire and a background screening, and we get you onboarded. And then we, depending on your interest, like Charmaine said, we can find something that fits you. If you want to be completely remote, then maybe telephone reassurance works best for you, and I can match you with a senior that we have, that one of our partner agencies sent over, that says, that they just want to talk to on the phone. They don't want anybody to come to their house. Some people are very particular, and that, we work best trying to match you with what you want to do. We're not going to try to just fit you in where we need you. So if you go to our website, empoweredaging.org, you will find the volunteer screening that you can fill out, and it goes directly to an inbox, and I screen those, and other people do as well, and we can contact you. And I know from personal experience working here and also volunteering in the past, it's something that brings great joy to my life, and giving back. You know, everybody's always like, oh, I just want to volunteer because, you know, it makes me feel good, but you're making other people feel good as well, and that makes you feel good. And until I started working with older adults, I never realized it was such a community that needed that volunteer work, because I always focused on foster youth, and not that they don't need volunteers as well. It's just that so much focus is put on children, and older adults are kind of forgotten. And when I came to intern here, I realized that, and I just had this passion that I wanted to continue to do this work. And I'm really glad that I got to stay on, and I hope that you become interested and that you want to come volunteer here, because we need you and we would love to have you. So
Yeah,
back to Susanna.
Thank you, Tia. I have to first say thank you so much for wanting to be on the team officially, because we're very, very glad to have you. I consider myself very lucky to be working with you right now. I'm sure we all feel the same. Can you also talk a little bit about Elder Justice and what a volunteer for that program might be experiencing?
Yes. So the Elder Justice Advocate position is kind of new. So what they do with that program is a lot of filling out restraining orders, helping people through the legal process, taking them to court dates if needed, transportation, things like that. And then just keeping in touch and following up with those cases to make sure that everything works out, and then setting them up with resources outside of what our agency can provide, such as Meals on Wheels, or passing them over to Friendly Visitor as well, and getting them set up if there's an isolation thing going on. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the Elder Justice program. And I have also volunteered, or I also interned with that program as well, and I enjoyed it a lot. There's a lot of different cases that you see that come in from throughout the community. So
I think one of the words we've heard over and over again today is isolation.
yes.
And there have been significant studies about the dangers of isolation on older adults. And actually, they were able to determine that isolation is as dangerous for older adults as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's a crazy thing to make that comparison, because we all know, we've all grown up hearing about the dangers of smoking, but to be able to relate it to isolation that way, when I learned that was a really significant hit for me about, like, that's the kind of work I want to do that impacts trying to take care of people who are facing isolation, and trying to make sure that we can do whatever we can to make sure that isn't happening. I love the stories that we're hearing today and that we're sharing with the public. And I think it's really important to note too, because some of the work that we're doing is very specialized. And Tia just talked about some things that might sound a little bit complicated, and our ombudsman staff might have been saying some things that sound a little bit intimidating. But I want to make sure you all understand that training is a very big part of the work that we have our volunteers do, ongoing training as well. So does anybody want to touch on just to make sure that people would feel comfortable with what they're being asked to do, and that they would feel prepared to do that work? Kiev, can you talk a little bit about that? Also, you didn't introduce yourself last time, so please do that this time.
I'm sorry. My name is Kiev Harris. I'm the program manager here at Alameda County. And I'm so sorry, we had some disconnecting. What was your question again?
My question was if you could talk a little bit about the training that volunteers go through to make sure that they feel prepared for the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you do all of the other back end of things, you'll be able to come in and actually do a ride along. And all of our volunteers, they come and do a ride along where you'll be able to get in-depth insight as to the world of an ombudsman/volunteer. So you'll be able to see how we enter facilities, how we come prepared with facilities. Also, internally, you will be able to see what complaints look like. You'll be able to see what documentation looks like, how to streamline a phone call. So all of those bases will be covered. We never will send you out into the field unprepared. So just rest assured that if you choose to decide to be an ombudsman, all aspects of everything you need will definitely be covered in-house and out in the field in the community.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Carly, Christina, any thoughts on if you wanted to mention anything about the modules, for example, or the state mandated part of this? Either one of you, would you like to jump in on that?
So there are modules that you go through for certification. So there are 12 modules. It's all modules provided by the state office. So we go through those modules with you. And then any questions you have, we bring up case studies too, or case notes, kind of go through those cases with you to see if you understand and can apply what you've learned to those cases. And then when you go out into the field, it's very helpful for you to kind of shadow with ombudsmen, see how they handle those cases. It just really drills it into you what you've learned through the modules. And then every year you go through recertification. So you do 18 hours of ongoing training, and then we send in that certification to the state for you to continue your volunteer with us.
Thanks, Caroline. Christine, anything further?
Yeah, just, we don't just put you out there, defend for yourself. There is a lot of training, you're shadowing all of us, whether it's with the program manager or the regional supervisors, but there's so much training that we give you, and, we will be by your side, till you feel comfortable doing it by yourself. So, I know it was mentioned that it seems overwhelming, things like that, but really we're here to support you. We're not going to, have you defend for yourself. We want to support you. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable with what you are doing.
Thank you. And I think it's important to note, this is really, it's significant work. This work makes a difference. This work changed lives. And honestly, our capacity is, we're doing the work that we need to do to meet the need, but we could be doing a lot more. We could be out there more. We could be helping people to feel heard more and seen more. We've talked about being seen and heard. So in the end, we're really hoping that this video has inspired you to want to learn more. And we'll list our website information. We'll list our the page for our volunteer information in the form that gets filled out and sent to Tia. But reach out to us. You can reach out to any one of our offices. If you have questions and you're not quite sure if you're ready for this or if it's a good fit, call one of our offices. We're happy to talk with you about this. Thank you again for joining us today and for supporting our efforts through your volunteerism, through your donations, through sharing of our social sites and posts. We hope that we've inspired you to join our team and to be part of the Empowered Aging family and to do this work because, again, it's so important and you really can make a difference. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.